between these two. They both have fractions when you're solving them, but this one just has like an individual fraction, whereas this one's like the whole thing's a fraction. So on this one, what would you start by doing? Yep, minus 5. Okay, and then there's 3 ways that you can look at what you do next. You can look at it like you're dividing by 2/3 on both sides, or you can look at it as you're multiplying by 3/2, because that's what the same thing is, multiplying by the reciprocal. Or you can do it in 2 pieces, which is how I like to do it, because it's like less hard on the brain. So first, I'm going to multiply by 3 on both sides, and that's going to get rid of the 3 on the bottom. So then you have 2x equals 6. And then what would you do? You divide by 2. So x equals what? 3. Yeah. Okay, number 2 is different though because the whole thing is a fraction. So you're not able to access any of this stuff until that's gone. So we're going to start by doing what? But then you'd have to simplify the x in 2 also. You'd have to make that its own fraction. So it's not worth it. So to get rid of the 2 first, what do I do? Yeah, multiply by 2 on both sides. So then you have x minus 6 equals 22. And then what? Yeah. So x equals 28. Any questions on those? Okay. So this whole unit is all about like data and like statistics and stuff like that. So it's a little different than what we've been doing. So your objective is students will be able to find mean, median, mode, range, and standard deviation. Deviation, standard deviation. Deviation. Okay, so for vocab, we're going to kind of switch the vocab up a little bit. We're going to kind of add to it. So measure of central tendency is going to be, a measure of central tendency describes the center of the data. So that's going to be your mean and your median. And then a measure of dispersion so the same thing, but of dispersion describes the spread of your data. So that's going to be your range and your standard deviation. So your mean and your median are both trying to look at like what's in the middle of all the data points, and then your range is like how wide your data set is, like the biggest and then the smallest, and then standard deviation, which we're going to define right here, is the average distance the data set is from the mean. So if the mean is in the center, your standard deviation is trying to figure out on average like how far away from the center your data is, so how spread out it is. And then an outlier is value that is much bigger or smaller than the rest of the data. Okay, so first example, is there an outlier in the data set? Yes or no? Guys?
Yes, there is.
Yes, what would it be?
189.
Yep, 189. Because it's a lot bigger than all the rest of the numbers.
How much is like a lot bigger?
I mean, like, just use your judgment. Like, if I'm asking you, it'll be, like, obvious. Yeah. And what about the second one? I would say it's pretty close to, yeah, close enough. Yeah, we'll just say no. Okay, good there? All right, first step is mean. Your mean is your average. You use this symbol for mean, and don't think about it as X with a line over it and you're trying to figure out what the line does. That's not what's happening. It's like a symbol. Like, you know how in math sometimes you have like Greek symbols and stuff that stand for stuff? Yeah? No? Kind of? Like infinity. Like stuff like that. It's just a symbol that represents something. That's what this is, okay? So for mean, you use X with a line over it. That stands for mean. And the way you find that is you do the sum, so add up all your values, and divide by n, which is the number of values you have. So for the first one, to find your mean, add up all your values, 8 plus 3 plus 5 plus 2 plus 7 plus 9 plus 5 plus 2. And then divide that sum by how many numbers you have, which is how many? 8. Okay. So that is going to be 41 over 8, which is going to equal 5.125.
Why do we use 8?
Because there's 8 numbers.
Oh,
Oh, yeah. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, you guys try to find the mean of the second one. Okay, are we done? Yes, what'd you guys get?
5.83.
5.83. Yeah, I think I rounded to 5.8. Was it? Yeah, because it was repeating, right? Yeah, so was it 5.83333?
Yeah, yeah.
Let's just do 5.83. That's fine. 5.83. Okay, we're all clear on how to find the mean? Mhm.
We always turn it into decimal.
Yeah. And pay attention to Math Excel. It'll tell you like what to round to. Okay. All right. Now there's another type of mean question that they're going to ask you, and it's where you have the mean but you're missing one of the values. Okay. So example 3, your grades on 3 exams are 80, 93, and 91. What grades do you need on the next exam to have an average of 90 on all 4 exams? So you are going to set it up. So your first 3 exams are 80, 93, 91. Do we know the 4th exam score? No, that's what we're going to use for X. So that's what we're going to be solving for, is that 4th exam score. And then when I'm finding the mean of those, what would I end up dividing by? 4. So there's 4 exams. Bless you. And then you're going to equal that to the average you want. So what average do you want? 90. Because it says you want an average of 90. Okay, good? Okay, so let's add those 3 up. $264? Is that right? Okay, see that. Okay, then this is why we did the warm-up. So what do we do first? Yep, times 4. So 264 plus x equals 360. And then what? So x equals 96? Why am I good at math right now? No, normally I can't do like math in my head like that. Okay, does that make sense? Yeah? Okay, go ahead and try the next one.
I'm so excited.
We good? Yeah? Okay. All right, so for this one, so you add up all of those, so 245 plus 292 plus 187 plus 301 plus x, all divided by what? 5, and that's going to equal what? 300, yep. Okay, and then what? Well, let's just do all that at the same time. So we'll times 5 and all, so we can do the sum. So times 5 times 5. And then what was the sum of those? 1,025 plus x equals 1,500. So x equals what? Yeah, 475. All right, good. So that's mean. Next up is median. So median is another measure of center, but instead of it being like center as an average of them, it's like the literal center, like when they're in order. Okay. So first thing you're going to do is you're going to put them in order from smallest to biggest. Be really strategic with this because it's really common to miss a number or like write duplicates or whatever. Okay. So I always like to cross mine out as I do it, and I make my new list directly under my old one to make sure I have the same amount of numbers at the end. Okay. So what's the smallest number? Yep, 1. 2. Okay. So give an order. There's going to be 2 situations. You're either going to have one that's directly in the center or you won't. We're going to do one of both. Okay?
Why is there 2 2s?
Because there's 2 2s in there. Huh? I think, yeah. So just start crossing out. Okay, so you have one that's directly in the center, so your median is 5. You guys doing the next one? Okay.
Yeah, what if it's not? What if it's an even number?
We'll get there. That's next one. Okay, ready? Yeah? Okay, so in order, 2, right? 2, 2. Okay. And then what do you guys get for the median? Yep, 4. Okay, we good there? Okay, so now we're going to do ones where you don't have one that's directly in the middle. There's 2, okay? So let's put this in order. 2, 2, 3, 3, 5, 7, 8, 9. Okay, and then start crossing out. Okay, so here we have 3 and 5 both in the center. So you're basically trying to find what's in the center of those, or you're finding the average, like the mean of them. So you do like 3 plus 5 divided by 2, which is 8 divided by 2, which is what? 4, yeah.
Why do you divide it by 2?
Because there's 2 numbers.
Are there situations when there's more than 2 numbers?
No, because if you'll either be left with 2 in the middle or like you'll have a middle. Because all the rest get crossed out. So you guys try this then? We done? Yeah, okay. 2, 2, 3. Okay. So what 2 numbers are in the center? 4 and 5. So let's do 4 plus 5 over 2, which is 9 over 2, is 4.5. Cool, we good?
Yeah.
Okay, next is mode, I think. Yeah, so mode is just the number that occurs most often. If there isn't a number that occurs most often, you can just say no mode, or you can say like all of them or whatever, okay? So for this first one, what would it be? 5. Yep. And what about the second one? Yep, no mode. Huh? Most often. Like that has like the most amount of times it appears.
What if it's even? That's not right. If there's 2 48s and 2.
No, you then need to do both.
48,
Yeah. Bless you. Okay, what's the mode for the first one? 48 and 51, yeah. And what about the second one? Yep. Any questions on that? Okay. All right, range is measuring how spread out your data is. So you always do biggest minus smallest. So on the next example, what's the biggest number? 9 minus, what's the smallest number? 2, so that's going to be 7. Okay, next one, what's the biggest? Smallest? So that's me 9. Yep. Okay, good there? Yes. Okay, last thing is standard deviation. This is probably going to be new for you guys, and it's a little wild looking. So, what standard deviation is we're basically figuring out how far away each of the numbers is from the mean, and then finding the average of those values. Okay? So, it looks like this. It's insane. This is what the formula looks like. We're not ever going to, like, write that formula out or really use the formula. We just kind of, like, know the process. Okay? So, first step is going to be to find the mean. It's really important for, like, all of our numbers to end up the same, that we all are rounding the same throughout. So we're going to do just one decimal place for the average if we need to do decimal places, okay? So first let's find the average of those. Did anyone find it? No. 60.7. Yeah, try. Yeah, so 60.7 is what you should have for your mean. So adding all those up and dividing by how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. Okay. So we are going to like this is we're just gonna organize like this. You're not gonna have one of these every time. You're gonna kind of just organize it generally however you want, but like this. We're actually gonna get rid of this middle column. Because we can just kind of skip that extra step that we don't need. We're just going to go straight here, okay? Okay, so write out all your data points. It doesn't have to be in order or anything, so just write them all out here. 35, 50, 60, 60, 75, 65, 80. So to get your new values that we're going to use, you're going to subtract those values with the mean and then square your answer. But we're just going to put it all at once, okay? So for the 35, do parentheses, 35 minus your mean, 60.7, parentheses, squared. And you get 660.49. So that goes here.
So X the first value.
Yep. Well, actually doesn't really matter because whether you get positive or negative, you're squaring it, I still get positive no matter what. Yeah. Okay, and then next one, parentheses, 50 minus 60.7 squared, 114.49. Do not round during this part of the process at all. Because the more you round a teeny tiny bit on every problem, at the end it like ends up being a big change. Okay. All right. Next is 60. So parentheses 60 minus 60.7 squared, 0.49. Okay, 75. 204.49. 65. 18.49. And then 80. 372.49. Okay. So now you're basically going to find the average of all of those numbers. Okay. So sum, divide by how many numbers you have. But then at the end you take the square root because that's kind of counteracts that. It's the whole thing in statistics why we have to do that. Just know that you have to. Okay. I'm not going to write anything in this column because as much as you can, you don't want to be like rounding and retyping things. So I'm going to show you how to like insert your last answer exactly like the long crazy decimal that it is. Okay. So let's add all those up. Okay, so that's your sum.
49 plus everyone.
Huh?
Like, you're doing 49 plus.
0.49
Why do you
from those ones. I just didn't put the zeros. So you're just adding all those. Okay, so that's them all added up, and then I'm going to divide by how many numbers there are. How many numbers are there? 7. So this is why I scratched that out because like that we don't want to round that off at all, so we don't even want to write it down. Okay, we're just going to do the next thing to it. So the way that you're going to be able to plug that whole thing in without having to retype it. Do you guys see on the negative sign on both types of calculators, you see A and S? Yes? So that is going to insert your last answer. So make a square root, so second and then square root. And then to insert the last answer you got, do second and then the negative sign, and the A and S will pop in there. And then you get that. So we're just gonna round that to 14.
How come you did that again? Like, oh, you had to square it that way.
Square root it, yeah. Yeah, so I divided by 7, but I have to square root that number. So then there's no way to like square root the last answer you got. You have to like start with the square root and then put in the value. So that's how you put it in. So the A and S stands for the last answer you got. Make sense? So I have to retype the whole thing. All right, you guys don't try one on your own? Okay. So remember, parentheses, number minus mean, and then squared on the outside. Yeah, because it was 13.997, so all of it would just have to rounding it to 14.
How does it find you to help like the mean?
Because that's what you're using for all the values. Because remember, you're doing the number minus mean every time. You good? You still need more time at all? Yeah, okay. Okay, like another minute. Okay. Do you guys want the answer first? Just see what you've gotten. So if you round, you should have gotten like 3.8. Do you want me to add the work? Yeah? Okay. What do you guys get for the mean for this one? 44? That's right.
When you say what you got 4, final answer was that
What?
you say 4 should have been the final answer.
3.8. Yeah.
You rounded up to 4.
It just like use your judgment on that's the only reason we did 14 last time is because it was like 997, so like no matter what they all just kept like pushing it up. Okay, so and then this one we're gonna get rid of. Okay, so for this you get 49, 16, 9, 4, 1, 1, 9, 16, 16, 25. Okay. $105. Do you guys get 105 for that? No, did I forget? 146? Yeah? Okay. Divided by how many there are, which is, 10? Yeah? And then the square root of that? Yeah. Okay. Cool. Good? All right. And then here, if you have a graphing calculator, here are the steps that you could do standard deviation in that, if you're interested. You still need to show your work, though. Okay, so go ahead and do this lesson check. So it's asking you to do all of those for average plant growth. So for this column. So you're doing the mean, median, mode, range, and standard deviation of this column of numbers. Abby. I just calling because I was just in yesterday and I got 4 new tires, and then today one of them is flat, so I didn't know if I don't see anything in it or anything, so I don't know what's wrong with it. Am I able to bring it at like if I get there around like 2:30 to 45 ish? Okay, cool. Okay, awesome. And I took it off already. Is that okay? It's in my backseat. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Bye. guys, I'm just gonna put the answers up.